Hey gang, if you're anything like me, you occasionally lose some nuts. So today, I'm going to show you what to do about it. Alright, we're using some aspen and mahogany for this build, mostly because I had some left over from the checkerboard that I made. So we're just going to cut those pieces to length, rough length I guess. Some of the smaller pieces I run back through the table saw. I just want to make sure that all the dimensions are the same. If they're not, glue up can be slightly challenging. If you haven't figured it out already, I'm making two different types of boxes here, one with a mahogany base and one with an aspen base. I'm just gluing up all four sides. Make sure you're not putting glue on every single piece, otherwise you'll just end up with a big striped panel. I'm actually only putting glue on a couple of the pieces here so that I have four separate pieces that I can later trim and glue into a square shape. If you found this content valuable or at least entertaining, don't forget to nail that like button. Now that the glue has dried, I'm ready to cut a 45-degree bevel on each piece. I set up a stop block on my crosscut sled so that each piece is cut to the same length. Glue up is fairly straightforward and simple. I set all of my pieces right next to each other on a piece of blue painter's tape, put a little glue on all of the beveled sides, and then I can fold the tape over and connect all four pieces of my box. Painter's tape works okay. Packing tape is probably a little bit better. I just went with what I had on hand. And then just to keep everything nice and tight, I put a couple of rubber bands around there too. That actually worked really well to do that. This wood really didn't require much sanding. It was pretty smooth from the get-go, but I just wanted to remove any glue squeeze out from the joints. So that's what I'm doing here. In the moment, my bandsaw seemed like the right tool to cut out the bottoms for my boxes. In hindsight, that was a terrible decision and I should have just used my table saw. But the boxes weren't quite square, so there were some subtleties. So my bottom also didn't need to be quite square, but in hindsight, it probably would have been a lot easier just to cut it out on my table saw and cut the pieces, or sand the pieces to the correct dimensions, I guess. Now it's time to make the tops of my nut boxes. It's pretty much the same process as I used to make the sides. I'm gluing up pieces of aspen and mahogany. I wanted to have an opposite colored stripe in the middle, and then I'm actually going to cut these at 45-degree angles so that that stripe goes across the top of the box on a diagonal. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. I use my combination square to cut the first piece to hold my box top at a 45-degree angle. As you can see, it wasn't the easiest thing to do, but then after that, I could just use the flat side to make the other three cuts to the proper dimensions for my lid. Once I got the tops cut to their proper dimensions, I just cut out some smaller squares that would then fit inside of the box itself and hold the lid in place. I made some X's on both pieces to make sure that everything was lined up well, and then I just glued them down and clamped them in place. For finishing, I use my old favorite Danish oil. I like it because it's very easy to apply and very hard to screw up. Once the finish is dry, you simply add your favorite type of nut and enjoy. An amateur tip for all of you who are watching, make sure the pigment in your wood matches up. I had to go get a little extra mahogany and wouldn't you know it, the color was different. Whoops. I hope you enjoyed the latest installment of the Weekend Woodworker, and I hope you continue to follow along for many more unique builds to come.